the Gentlementor.
when you're talking about him, when you realizing now that, and that's the opportunity that I get to have with him, is to share, I'm sharing the things that we see in Christ, that his whole purpose was to come and spend himself for us. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
He was expending his whole life for us. And when we realize we get our focus off of us and we spend our lives for others, then we're set free from the things like you were just talking about. And you realize,
It breaks down selfishness and comfort so quickly.
Exactly.
It goes right at him.
It goes right at
comfort.
It goes right
You
at
talked
comfort.
about, oh man, and while you were saying that, I had three more things pop into my head.
Oh, come on, bring it.
You made a reference before. And I came to this moment. I told my wife, I'm like, you're so lucky. This is one of those moments where you're blessed not to have wealth.
I love telling my wife, you're so lucky.
Because I would have sent this guy a bus ticket. Oh, the thing about the death coupon and the fear of death. The fear of death.
The euthanasia coupon? What are you talking about?
Yes. Euthanasia coupon.
Yes.
When I came to this realization, I'm talking to Derek and I'm going, dude, you can't. He's like, I need a do-over. I'm like, you can't do over there. You're going to fall right back into the same group of people, the same behaviors. You've got to get out. I know. I don't have a way to get out of there. And I'm like, there's only one thing left to do. I got to get him out of there. I got to do it.
Yeah.
And so I started praying. I'm like, God, I don't have a way. I don't have the means. I don't have the money. I need to be church to this guy. Yeah. This guy needs church today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's when I texted you and Kelly and everybody. I'm like, what can we do? How can we church this guy? Yeah. We've all been talking about this for over a year. And being a church without a building, without dogma, without doctrine, all that stuff. Here's the opportunity.
Right.
Here's the chance to do something for this guy. The euthanasia coupon was that when I said to him, okay, you accept that you need a do-over and that it can't happen there. Are you prepared to lose everything that you have? Because you keep telling me you don't have anything left to lose. So here's the test. For you to leave there, you're going to have to leave everything behind, including you. Old you is going to have to die.
Wow.
If I make the calls and I can make something happen and I can get you out of there, are you prepared to let it go, leave it behind, and walk away from that life? Can you let go of the old life and grab the new life? And then all of a sudden, he didn't respond. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I'm almost hyperventilating. I don't know what to do. I need to go for a walk. I'll talk to you later.
Interesting.
It's a euthanasia coupon.
Because he realizes
it's death.
There's death coming.
Here's one of the most difficult parts of the whole. Here, let me jump onto another ship that's passing by. The whole Viking phenomenon of my life was
back up. Hold on, you froze for a second. Viking phenomenon? Is that what you said?
Viking.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, I'm there. I just want to make sure.
Was at the end of that the realization that Doug could not live because he couldn't. You can't be two people at one time. Right. If you're going to be the new person, the old person has to die. This is all theological claptrap that we've heard for years. But then it comes to this moment. There's that Confucius quote that I drove you batty with one night at your dining room table. Every man lives two lives. The second begins the moment he realizes he only has one. Mm. That's what that is. Mm. You can't be new guy. You can't be do-over guy and old guy. You can't put the new wine in the old wineskins or they'll both be destroyed.
That's what we want to do.
Well, shoot, yeah, because we think that's how things are done. Why? Why?
Because we're comfortable.
Oh, get that man a cigar. Dying's uncomfortable. I had a conversation with Andy a couple of weeks ago. I know I re-listened to it because I went, no, you're still wrong and I'm still right. But it was about death and the fear of death. And I said, I don't think people are really afraid of being dead. I think they're afraid of how they're going to get from here to there. That transfer, that transition piece is the scary piece. Am I going to
Is
go
it
out in a flaming car wreck? Am I going to die instantly of a gun shot to the back of the head? Am I going to
Yep.
have cancer for 6 years?
Okay.
What's the transfer going to be like? Because most of us, well, I don't mind dying if I can go peacefully in my sleep.
Right, because
Well,
that's
yes,
comfortable.
that's very
Because I
comfortable,
don't
isn't
notice
it?
it.
In
Yeah,
my
because I
sleep.
don't notice
That's
it.
in my bed. I want to die in bed. How lazy is that?
The
And
transfer.
people call me lazy. It's that
I
transition piece that's
Is
frightening.
it or is it? I often think about it's what I'm losing.
Andy said no. Andy said, "Oh, I don't think so. I've seen a lot of death. It doesn't bother me because I know, and you're just going to go, and you're
Because
not
you
going to
work,
know, and you're
yeah.
not going to." I'm like, "What if you're in a hospital bed for 3 months?"
Did you
That's
just come to
scarier to
terms?
me
You
than.
just come to terms with the inevitable, right?
Well, I think when you face the inevitable, you come to terms with it. That's just
Well,
the
that's true too.
that's the inevitable. That's how it works.
Hmm.
That's on the inevitable, not on us. I don't know, and I'm not saying that is what it is. It was just kind of something I posed as like a theological. What is it about death that scares us? I mean, it is it's the unknown, and we don't know. Yeah. But like Marcus Aurelius or whoever it was that said, when you're here, you don't know about the dead, and when you're in the dead, you don't know about here. So that don't
I
make
don't.
any sense.
I've got a.
The big thing where the big gospel message to me in the New Testament, especially in the book of Acts, the thing that always makes me go back thinking about it, and I never hear anybody else talk about it, so I always am reticent to say anything because I think maybe other people don't notice. But they talk about all the changes and the exponential growth and all the thing, but like the thing that gets to me about the church of Acts, the church in the book of Acts was that they went out boldly speaking the word of God. What's the source of that boldness? Well, there was only really one thing to be afraid of for them, and that was death. And once Christ took care of death, they weren't afraid of it anymore. That's what Paul says.
So we
What
don't.
are you scared of?
So we don't. We still have fear. We have
Yeah.
created a new fear of death.
Or we've taken part in the old fear of death. There's something there that it doesn't compute. You know what I mean? It's like if you look at a dam and the water's this high on one side and this low on the other, it's because of the dam. This is a situation where the water's different, but I can't see what is the actual holdup. What is
What's the
stopping
whole?
us?
Yeah.
This is, to me, the essence of why we struggle for comfort. And that is kind of the ultimate discomfort for us. And it shows in the way that we treat death.
Yeah.
We treat death like we're really uncomfortable with. We don't talk about it. We don't want to deal with it. Our funerals are bing, bing, bing. Let's get it over with.
Yeah, but even our death, we're comfort. We're comforted by all these padded wooden coffins and flowers and things.
Think
So
of
we
how,
even
look
comfort
at the
ourselves
inside of a
even
coffin
in
with all that
death.
quilting and all that. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I've told my wife, and I don't need that. I'm done. I'm done. I don't need a
Since
blanket.
since since I was a small child, it has always bugged me the way that we deal with death.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any kind of sense, especially in the light of Christianity. In the light of Christianity, it makes zero sense.
right.
We do all this funeral stuff. What's all that for? That's not for the
Us.
dead guy. It's for
us.
us. It's for
It's
our
for us.
comfort.
Yes.
I need it.
No, we feel better. We have
It's
separation.
for
We have
us.
closure.
God love your wife and her family, and they had the nice picture the other day, and they're all out there by Grandpa Charlie's tombstone and stuff.
Yes.
My grandma used to do that. We'd have to go around and put flowers on people's graves at certain times of the year, and we'd visit, and we'd stand, and we'd look. Oh, I need to go. Oh, we'd go to. And I've always wondered, why do we do that?
But there's never a question, and especially with Charles, there's never a question that he is where he wants to be and where
Right.
he prefers to be. So that's the thing, and it is all for us, and I think we recognize that, and I think that's okay.
Right.
And it is a comfort thing. Yeah,
I ain't plussing or minusing on it. I'm just saying it becomes, when you look at the death process,
Right.
how we deal with
Right.
it, it becomes obvious
Right.
that we've got an issue there.
Right. I'm trying to look at death as an event that I'm looking forward to. I've worked up this whole thing where I'm like, someone told me one day, "Oh, so you want to die old doing something young?" Yes, I do. I want to die in a plane crash because I was too close to the ground during a loop. I want to die in a skydiving accident because I was
You're too close to the ground during the loop.
because I pulled the too close to the ground. Those are the
Ah!
Those are the kinds of things that I'm like looking forward to. Like, that's the kind of thing I want to die. I want to die being attacked by a shark because I was surfing in a place that I shouldn't be surfing. That's what I want. Yeah, that's a little dramatic about what I really want, but it's like I want to face death in a sense of like it's coming. I might as well face it. Death is a part of life.
It is.
That's
And
that's
it is
that's where we
especially
end
right
up.
now. It seems
It's
to
where we
be
end up. And let's not just take physical death. Let's take an emotional death. Let's take a seasonal death with things in our lives. It's time to like, okay, I'm done with this. It's time to close the casket and lower this and throw some dirt over it. And it's time to move over. Whatever things we need to think about, as far as like it's a closure. We're done with it. Let's be done with it. Anyway, comes back to comfort.
Yeah,
We don't
well,
want to be discomforted. We don't want to be uncomfortable about something, but yet it's good to have these conversations and to
isn't
think,
it
okay,
odd that we are so extremely invested in comfort that we can't even be honest with ourselves?
see, that's too bad.
I think that's terrible.
Yeah,
To me, that is of all red flags, the red flag. At the
yeah,
point that I have to lie to myself about something,
or lie to me.
I don't mind that as much.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh,
when
that's
I'm
fine.
lying to me,
That's a
I have
big
crossed
deal.
the line. I'm
That's
not putting up with this. Hey, me, get over here.
you stop that right now.
So, yeah, we tell so many lies. I mean, like I said, there's so much in the way we deal with death. Just our funeral industry gives me endless cause for pause. But
Yeah,
the way we talk about things, they used to make a joke about how people would like if they were talking about death or something serious, they'll say whisper. That's like I said, the psychology behind that is not lost on me.
right. Yeah.
That I'm so uncomfortable with this thing that I have to whisper to talk about it. Who are
I
you
tell you.
avoiding? You're whispering it and you're saying it to me. We both hear you.
So here's the funny thing. Here's what I love to do. I love to catch people off guard with this story,
All right.
and it's a
You know what this
terrible story.
podcast needs is a terrible
Is
story.
a terrible story.
This
I
needs an
love
anecdote.
this. I love this story, and I don't know. I'm kind of torn whether or not to feel bad for it or feel like that's just the way that it is. But so there's times when I talk to people and they talk about my history and what's your story and this, and I say, well, I used to be engaged, and then like 3 weeks before I got married, she called off the engagement, but she's dead now, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, she died in a car accident like 2 months after we called off the wedding. And you knew that story about me, right? You knew that story, right? I was in Moberly when I got the call.
I don't think so.
I was there in Moberly when I got the call. I remember sitting there in the floor
I don't remember
in
that.
that duplex that I lived in.
That I
Anyway,
remember.
yeah,
The duplex.
you remember the duplex.
I do.
Anyway, so I got the call and I was like, what? Anyway, it's just one of those things where it's like, and people are so like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. And I'm like, is it?
That's a kooky story.
It is a kooky story, but I mean, you make choices, you do things, you get in, and then
Word
death
up.
is a part of life, and you end up in a Jeep with a guy who's going too fast,
Yeah.
and you're dead.
Well,
It's a terrible thing. It is terrible, and I think about what her life could have been, what impact I had on her life. Am I going to see her again? All these other questions that I have, but it's like when you throw that out, people are just like, whoa, why would you throw that out in a conversation? Because she's dead.
well, the next
Why I
time
would throw
if
it out.
anybody gives you any crap here, you should hear Doug's story about his dad in the burning house.
Burn it house. He ran in and the baby's dead.
Burning down the house. And the baby died.
And the baby died.
End of story.
Nobody wants to hear those things because when you start a story, people are like, oh, this is going to be a great story. No.
What a happy ending story.
No, great stories are going to be happy endings.
This has been the trajectory of my life for like the last week and a half. Has been this kind of death watch, and learning, catching myself out here. Comfort. Here's a great comfort question. So I told you the story about Charlie and not being
Yes.
able to get up.
Yeah.
And I called Kelly to see if Kelly could get me the money or loan me the money or give me the money to have him put to sleep. And after talking to Kelly and putting down the phone and looking at Charlie, I was.
By the way, if you want to send any funds to help Charlie,
Poor
Planet
Charlie.
Derage at yahoo.com.
And I started going, why did I want to put him to sleep?
Is it because of his own comfort? Or is it because of yours?
Because it's uncomfortable to look at a dog suffering, or a child suffering, or an old person suffering. You want to help them, and you can't help them.
Right.
With a dog, it's especially difficult because communication
That's a problem.
is very limited.
Yeah.
So you feel super helpless. And I felt in that moment, like I said, before I started that conversation with Derek, I had been in that moment where I was just like, God, I feel so helpless here.
Yeah.
My dad is dying, and I can't do anything to help him or to comfort him. I can't even go visit him because the COVID rules, they wouldn't even let me in.
Mm-hmm.
Here's this dog. I can see him, and I can see that he's uncomfortable. He's not happy with this. This is not the quality of life he's used to. He may not be in any physical pain, but it's a pretty severe downgrade to not be able to walk under your own power.
And all you could do is give him a mattress.
And all I could do is give him a mattress and clean up his poop, and there's hair, and it stinks, and it's a mess, and it's difficult, and he weighs a lot, and I have to walk him out in the yard and like walk alongside, and I get peed on and I get pooped on in the process of that, and I have to stand and hold him up so he can drink water. He won't eat any food, and I don't know what to do, and yes, I wanted to put him to sleep because I was uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
What I need to do is quit being a sissy and face it.
And do what? And face it with
Nothing.
what?
Face it. Face death. This is death. Death is part of life.
So
death
what
is
is that?
coming for this dog, and death is coming for your dad. So you do whatever you can do to make
Which is
that.
and you can't euthanize your dad, but is
can't.
euthanizing your dog? Is that a step of mercy? Is that a step of
If
comfort?
if he were suffering, it would be merciful to him. It would be about his comfort. But he is not suffering. This is about my comfort. It's difficult to have to take care of an invalid dog. It's difficult, and he's a big dog. It's almost like taking care of an invalid human being.
Yes, I can see that.
And he wakes me in the middle of the night 2 and 3 times. I wake up because when he wants to get up, he wakes up in the middle of the night. He wants to get up. Maybe he's a little Joe Biden and can't really figure out what's going on, and he'll start crying.
Come on, man.
And it's not like hurt crying like puppy. He does this thing, we call it bear noises. He does it to the other dogs. He won't growl at him if he wants them to move. He just kind of makes this intimidating sound. It's not really a growl. It's kind of a groan. And so he'll start doing that. Or he was thrashing and hitting his head against the door, trying to get the bedroom door open so he could go back in under the bunk bed when we had him laying in the hallway. We had to take him out of the hallway.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you do whatever you can do. The only way to make this better is to try to make it better. And you can't do that sitting on the sidelines observing it. You do that by getting involved. That's what happened with Derek. You do that by getting involved. The thing that hurts about my dad is I cannot get involved. So but that whole thing, that wanting to put that dog to sleep, this first story, of course, is that it's merciful for the dog, but the real story is it's more comfortable for me. And then, of course, the light bulb pops on. Wanting to put this dog to sleep has more to do with my comfort than his comfort at this point. At the point that he's obviously uncomfortable, then it's another decision to make. And it's like, okay, there's some interesting things that comfort will inform us about. Help us to lie about ourselves, help us to lie to ourselves. I don't know, I think of that Derek situation, I think of Chris, when Chris got out of prison. Like, so many people were shaking their heads at me going, no, no, no.
Why would you do that?
Why would you do this? Why would you do that? And I'm like, because
Just for context, Chris got out of prison and he lived with you for a while.
Yeah.
You helped him get on his feet.
Yeah. But it was like, I don't know how to not help somebody that obviously needs help. I know how to not want to, and I know it's uncomfortable, and I know it's difficult, but ultimately I know my conscience on the other side of skipping it.
Right.
If I allow myself the day pass on it, if I go, you know what, we're not going to do this, and it's all going to be fine, and I've got all these reasons, and here's a good solid, it's common sense, and I'm just doing what's safe for my family and what's best, and it's all a lie. It's about my comfort. It's about that's really uncomfortable. Bringing someone into your house to live with you is really uncomfortable. Especially when you're bringing them there from out of prison. or out of the need. Well, Jackie's friend Shelly that used to work with her and got in a bad drug
Yes.
situation and
Yes. I
came and
remember.
stayed with us on a
Yep.
couple of different occasions. And it's like, man, that's difficult. But is it any more difficult than sitting there like I am about Derek now? Because I still haven't heard from him.
Hmm.
He's just
So when you sent that text, and I'm in a emotional conundrum about this text because you sent that text, and then I'm like, you know, I just kind of assume you're helping with him and you're talking with him, and I know you sent out that prayer request to our group text, and I'm looking at that and praying for him, and then I'm like, I didn't ask any more questions because I had lots of questions. I wanted to know what happened, what's going on with him, and he didn't mention his name in the text, and so I'm very concerned about that. But I have to apologize because I've
no, you don't. You
not
did what I
shown
asked.
well, and I'm not shown.
I wasn't looking for anybody to rescue him. I wasn't looking for
And
anybody to do
not
anything.
that,
I
not
wanted
that,
what I asked for, and I knew you'd do it. To
right?
pray
And
for him, to say, God, what can we do for this guy? Because
right,
I could do a lot of fruitless stuff for this
and
guy.
I didn't want to sound like, or I didn't want to, because I think, you hear the things that or action speaks louder than words, but I think inaction speaks even louder than that. And I didn't even reply to the text, but
Nobody did.
well, I read it. I want you to know that I read it, and I feel bad about that. But I want to go back to.
Never feel bad about reading my text.
I won't. I won't. I
You want
want
to
to go
go back?
back. I want to go back to thinking about your late sister-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's not fair to put your dog in the same category, but at what point do we come to a point where we're like, okay, what's really best for me is if you were to live, and if I'm thinking about this in context of someone that, you, for example, what's really best for me is if you were to live and outlive me. But if I have to come to the point where I have to make a decision for your life and pull the plug, at what point do I go, okay, is this for my comfort, or is this really what I'm yielding to what the doctors are saying this is best?
Hopefully, at some point before you pull the plug. That's what I'm hoping for. Ask yourself that question right before
I
you pull the plug.
I will, and I will, but it just, and because you talk about that with your late sister-in-law, and it's like they pulled the plug because it was their comfort. But and I get that, and I think there's a lot of there's a battle there. There's a tug of war,
There is, and there's no clear answer.
and there's not. And at some point, you just have to go, okay. At some point, we're going to be drained financially. We're going to be drained emotionally, and and especially with you, I know if you were one of my loved ones, and I know where you were going to be, I was going to see you again soon. I'd be okay. I'd be like, okay, it's not about my comfort. It's about us just not dragging this out. And that's something that Deborah's dad was talking about before he passed away. He's like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be my last memory being like, what are we going to do with
Yeah.
you because you're sitting here in this hospital bed on the ventilator,
Or
whatever,
wheelchair or whatever
or
else.
wheelchair
No,
or
I think
whatever.
about it too. I think
And
about those things
his
too.
last memory, and I have envisioned his last memory was watching a show on Netflix. He got up to go to the bathroom, and he walked out, and he was with the Lord before his body hit the ground. And I think that's exactly what he wanted. He didn't want to be remembered as a burden,
Yeah,
as we were having to go to the hospital 5 days a week.
sure.
I don't know. I just think where's that balance? Where do we go? Okay, it's not about our comfort. It's about, okay, we're making a sacrifice of letting this person go and doing
I don't
what
know, man.
we think is
I,
right.
I have probably, of all the positions that I've embraced in my life, this is probably the area of my life that has undergone the most or undergoes the most constant reconstruction as my assessment of how we deal with life and death issues. And in my crazier youth, I was like pro abortion, pro death penalty, kill everybody. And I had kids, and then I was like, okay, I don't think abortion's good anymore. Let's not have that. We're not going to kill that. We'll not kill the innocent. We'll just kill the guilty. Then I was listening to a guy who is a musician, and I don't agree with him politically on most stuff to do with him, and he made this really compelling argument about the death penalty. And he said, here's my problem with the death penalty. It's got nothing to do with death. He said, here's what it's got to do with.
Okay.
I'm a United States citizen. The United States government is of, for, and by the people. So when my government kills somebody, I'm killing somebody. And I don't want to kill anybody. And I was like, I don't care for that because all of my regular rationalization arguments cannot do anything about that.
Error.
That makes it internal. That's so much more uncomfortable to deal with it on those terms. When you can't keep it out here and it's just columns, it's just math. Well, it's not this, and it's this, and it's this, and so you forfeited your right to be. No, I'm taking that life. And that made me go, I think I'm not pro-death penalty anymore.
Yeah, but then I could go, is the government really of the people and for the people anymore?
Have they ever?
Then I got that argument going.
And, well, I explained this to my in-law sibling lady people, whatever you call them, as we were having this conversation. I said, look, I don't want you to think this is about me moralizing. This isn't me going, abortion's wrong because I'm a conservative and conservatives say abortion's wrong. I said, I used to be for all that stuff. I used to be really pro-death penalty. And now I don't want to be responsible for taking a life. I said, I don't know if God's got a miracle for Margie or a healing for her, or if he wants to teach you a lesson through this, or me a lesson through this. All I know is that when it comes to taking life, that's not my job.
Is that because that's where you're comfortable at?
It's very uncomfortable for me. I want to be with them because it's uncomfortable to go to the nursing home and see this woman who's a year younger than me laying in this bed, a vegetable.
Yeah.
She's got 2 kids and a husband that loves her, and they're there every day taking care of her and holding her hand, and it's got to be excruciating. That was my final thing when I left the meeting was, it's up to them.
Yeah.
It's their life that this is affecting. This doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
I'm an audience. I'm an observer. And I said, I won't even say my opinion in front of them because I don't want them to think I'd think bad of them. But as far as the decision, it's theirs. It's not mine. But if you want to know my opinion about it, my opinion is I don't want to take life. God gives life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put myself in that position. I'm just not.
Yeah.
When it comes to this dog, he's mine, and he's my responsibility, and that's a decision I'm eventually probably going to have to face, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's heading right at me like a freight train.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to get myself out of the way. That's what's changed in the last couple weeks. My motive is not to get me out of the way.
That's good.
I
That's
have
huge.
accepted that I am going to remain on the tracks.
Yes. Now that's huge.
And whatever comes, comes. And I told that dog, and sit and cry on the floor with the dog, whatever comes, we'll go through it together.
I'm going to be here.
We'll go through it together.
Ah, jeez, man, that's it. That's where it's at.
That's all you got. If relationship is the thing, then the relationship has to go all the way.
That's it. And that's whether it's your dog, your dad, or Derek. The 3Ds. Hey, how about that?
3D chess.
The 3. That's exactly it. I'm going to remain on this course. I'm going to remain on the tracks. I'm going to remain
with you.
Committed to this relationship no matter what. No matter how uncomfortable it is. That's huge. And I'm going to tear up.
I already did. I'm trying to stop.
I can see it. I know. I can see it. I've had a lot of tears.
My face turns purple at the same time, so it's...
Yeah,
it's difficult to hide.
I can feel it, and listening to you talk, I can feel it, and then saying that, it's like that's it. I mean, there's nothing else more than just remaining in a relationship, remaining for that relationship because that's what you're called to do.
It's faithfulness.
Exactly. That's it. What else is there?
That's what we talked about when we talked about
comfort. It transcends riches, it transcends fame, it transcends everything. That's what I was talking about with my rabbi tonight. It's like when you connect with people, that's where the presence of God is enriched.
That's church.
He was like, so what you're saying is when you're with people, God gives you a hug. I'm like, yeah. Why would you not want that? And of course, there's always that thing too, where you're like, and I was talking to him about, being on a mountain or being on a beach, and you by yourself, you sense that presence of God. But there's something different when it's with people, because God is. That's where God is
Yeah.
with the people. That's where his thoughts are. That's where his love is.
That's why he made church. That's why he ordained
It's for
church. That's
people.
exactly what church is about.
Yeah.
It's a place for us to maintain connection with one another
Right.
and him simultaneously
Yeah.
in a hearty broth, stew,
Or
stir
brew,
fry, whatever
or
kind
stir
of thing.
fry, or brew,
Whatever you're
or
into. Yeah.
distilled beverage of your
Distilled
choice.
beverage of your choice. Wherever fine beverages are sold. No, that's the whole thing of the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego thing we talked about. There's no rescue in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's what, and they say that, and they're like, even if he doesn't save us, still we'll trust him. It's like,
Yeah.
whew,
That's tough.
that's heady. That's whatever
Yeah.
happens, we're sticking together. Whatever
Yeah.
comes down the tracks, I'm not leaving
Yeah.
you or the tracks. I'm staying right here. We're going together.
I think I don't know what else there is to say about that.
Did we tie that up with was that a spectacular bow on the end of that gift
I
there?
think I don't know what else there is to say about that. I think that it comes down to that kind of wraps up the things that we're dealing with in our society today. In the generation of people are just not committed. We come to this place where we're like, it's become a discomfort for me. It's become a problem for me. So I'm done, and we're not committed to that relationship. And you can take that anywhere. You can take that romantically, as we
Oh
see,
yeah.
whatever, politically,
Divorce culture, political
divorce
culture,
culture,
it's
and
everywhere.
let's take it to political as well. Let's take it
Yep.
to a community.
Well,
Uh,
what's the
it
source?
doesn't matter wherever you put that.
What's the source of the lack of dialogue? We all say that division is because we can't communicate together. Well, what's the source of that? It's because what you're saying is making me uncomfortable, and I don't want to
Yes.
hear it.
No. Exactly
So
right. Yeah. So I am not listening. Yes, and I'm voting for this, or I'm voting for
that's
this
right.
because whatever you say makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm not really voting for anything. I'm voting against something, but yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Disengage if it's too difficult.